A historic building in Glacier Park lost today as windy conditions spread the Sprague fire.
Montana's governor urges caution and says he doesn't want to see any more human-caused fires over the holiday weekend.
And Diana's devotees remember the beloved princess on the 20th anniversary of her death.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. Some terrible news to report tonight as Glacier National Park loses one of its most historic structures.
The main structure of the Sperry Chalet was taken by the Sprague fire that's been burning on the east side of Lake McDonald since August 10th. Winds pushed the fire to the east, creating an uncontrollable burn that took that structure.
After 6 p.m. tonight, we were notified by the team of firefighters that were stationed at the Sperry Chalet that the main chalet building had been lost from the fire. Over the course of the last 7 to 8 days, they have installed an extensive hose lay, sprinkler, and pump system in the chalet area. We felt that it was defensible, and the fire conditions today just were very extreme.
The 5 firefighters battling the fire are currently safe. They're still in the chalet area, actively fighting the fire in an attempt to protect the 4 remaining structures there. They'll stay there overnight. This fire grew 500 acres alone last night, the largest growth the fire has seen since it began. The 5 firefighters stationed there are the only ones that are able to fight the fire. It is currently too dangerous to place any more firefighters in that area.
I can't speak for the park, but I can speak for myself and Hutton's Wildland Fire Management team. We valued the Sperry Chalet. We know it was a beloved structure and has so much history for Glacier National Park, and we're sorry that it was lost.
Sperry Chalet comes after the iconic building had served travelers in Glacier's backcountry for more than a century. It was erected in 1913 by railroad magnate James J. Hill as he and his son looked at ways to spur westward travel on their Great Northern Railway. The chalet opened in 1914. Its rock and wood construction, weathering decades of the elements at the 6,500-foot elevation. The chalet was listed as a National Historic Landmark, and although there had been a few changes and improvements to the grounds, the facility was largely unchanged, serving hikers with private rustic guest rooms and informal meals. And today was a critical fire weather day with a red flag warning across western Montana. Russ Thomas has the latest on what is going on this evening. Russ?
Well, there's some good news. We had a red flag warning that was in effect until 9 o'clock. That did expire. So really the main thing there is the winds have died down. Of course, they did pick up this afternoon and this evening, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on the result of that as we move forward. 66 in Missoula right now, 73 in Polson, 65 degrees in Kalispell, a little warmer in Hamilton right now at 72 degrees. We look at our satellite and radar image, all clear, and this is what we're going to look like tomorrow and for the weekend as well. Of course, Labor Day weekend, big weekend for those folks maybe want to be outdoors, take that last weekend getaway before fall comes. We'll have your complete forecast on that coming up.
More than 500,000 acres is either still burning or has already burned across the state this summer. And tonight, Governor Steve Bullock is urging everyone to use common sense going into Labor Day weekend. The governor says there are 23 large fires burning currently in Montana. 125 aircraft and 4,000 people have been deployed to fight those fires. The Montana National Guard, which has been brought in to help, will increase the number of personnel fighting to 350. With high temperatures and windy conditions forecasted for the weekend, the governor doesn't want to see any human-caused fires.
This Labor Day weekend, and until conditions improve, we are asking for your continued support for our wildland firefighters, the communities and businesses impacted by the firefighters, and above all else, we're certainly asking you to take every precaution to avoid creating new fires.
Bullock also said neighboring states, including North Dakota and Washington, are prepared to lend resources to fight Montana's fires. And the head of Montana's DNRC is echoing the governor, urging people to be very careful, not just this weekend, but with several weeks of the fire season left to go. And that might mean you'll need to postpone some of your outdoor activities, such as firewood cutting, heading into the fall.
2017 is already a fire season for the record books. In western Montana alone, it's cost more than $100 million to fight just the major blazes that have plagued the landscape and filled the sky with fire smoke since mid-July. And what has fire agencies concerned is that there's still a lot of fire season to go. Historically, some of the largest fires happen after Labor Day. And with conditions as dry as they are and no rain in the forecast, DNRC Chief John Tubbs says it's critical for Montanans to stay on their guard.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fire season ahead of us. There's nothing in the weather forecast that says that this is going to come to an end anytime soon. What you can do most to support firefighters is to be very careful when you go out in the woods. When you're working on your property, be conscious that starting a fire right now is the last thing we need. Let's keep our firefighters safe, and the best way is for you to not start a fire.
With little or no rain since June, it's been a complete turnaround from our wet winter and spring. In fact, on the Lolo Peak fire, the probability of ignition has been as high as 95%. That means if you had 100 matches, lit them and dropped them, all but 5 would start a fire. And we're getting to that time of the year when activities like firewood collection and hunting hit our calendars. Tubbs says this might be the year to postpone some of those excursions.
You have to be cautious. If you are going to use any mechanical stuff in the woods, make sure you know what the fire restrictions are. Do it in the morning when the humidities are higher, but frankly, the weather conditions are just not conducive. If you can put off for a while and stay out of the forests, let's enjoy Montana, but let's keep our firefighters safe.
Now let's talk about some fire specifics. Crews battling the Rice Ridge Fire held a public meeting tonight, giving residents struggling through the smoke and evacuation some updates on how that fire is developing.
MTN's Eric Clements was at that meeting where senior fire officials expressed cautious optimism in the face of the weather.
Of all the challenges facing firefighters battling the Rice Ridge Fire, perhaps none is more dangerous than the weather. Winds continue to blow in Seeley Lake, stoking the flames threatening so many homes. But crews say they are cautiously optimistic.
We've got some stuff here that can make a difference, and that's what we want to try to do, is make a difference and get life back to normal in Seeley Lake.
Johnson says before crews can make that difference, they need cooperation from the weather. He says fighting fire is all about seeking opportunity.
So they're looking for those opportunities where they can get in there and safely work with the winds. The winds have helped us a little bit today, and they've hurt us a little bit today.
Crews are eking out those opportunities near Morel Creek, where an excess of dead, dry trees and moss threaten to throw sparks, which could quickly spread fire.
Right now, the fuels are so dry that we're seeing that probably 8 out of every 10 sparks that land on the ground have the potential to start another fire.
During the meeting, Johnson told Seeley residents the latest on the fight. A Type 1 helicopter is hitting the Morel Creek area to prevent further spread. Additionally, a hotshot crew is working on the eastern side of the fire, where high winds on Thursday pushed the blaze across fire lines. Crews are attempting to coax that burn into a more manageable area. Johnson told residents firefighters have secured 30 miles of line, and that crews are doing what they can amid dry conditions and uncooperative winds.
We're doing the best we can with what we got. We just need a few breaks in the weather.
In Seeley Lake, Eric Clements, MTN News.
Johnson says he is hopeful evacuees may soon be able to go home, but both fire crews and law enforcement want to be absolutely certain people will be safe before making that call. The incident commander says the last thing he wants is for people to get home, only to be evacuated again. The Northern Rockies Type 2 Incident Management Team is also hosting a public meeting to talk about firefighting efforts on the Meejer Fire, which is 24,000 acres in size tonight. It is burning in Granite and Ravalli counties. There's a meeting about it tomorrow. It's at the Sula Community Club, and that's going to happen in Sula at 6 o'clock. And we'll continue to track fire information on air and online. Always check Facebook, Twitter, and the KPAX mobile app.
In other news tonight, the identities of 2 people found dead at a residence on Strand Avenue are not going to be released to the public until the dental records and DNA tests are complete to identify the victims positively. 23-year-old Tiffany Pierce and 26-year-old Augusta Standing Rock arrested and charged with murder in connection with the deaths of these 2 people. The bodies were found dismembered in plastic tubs filled with chemicals after an informant came to police with information. The 2 victims haven't been identified by the coroner yet, as the condition of the bodies was in too poor of a condition to be easily identified, so they're using dental records and DNA tests to finish their report. That still could take several weeks. The next court dates for Standing Rock and Pierce have not yet been scheduled.
Still ahead, Russ joins us with the latest on our fire weather. Hot and dry conditions remain heading into the weekend.
Plus, 20 years ago today, the world lost a humanitarian icon. But does Princess Diana's legacy endure? We'll take a look. And later, a new medical center devoted to children's health care, soon to open in the Flathead. More to come here on KPAX.